press escape, whatnot, go to the vehicle, and then go to the harasser.
And then harass your sister.
I am going to be talking about two kinds of harasser. One is the anti-vehicle harasser, and one is the anti-infantry harasser. The most important of these is anti-vehicle, and we're probably going to be using the most for anti-vehicle, so let's start with that one.
Halberd.
For guns, we're going to wait till last. We're going to talk about utility, defense, and performance first. Utility slot, there's not really any kind of question, it's just fire suppression. You need and want your fire suppression. If your harasser is burning at any point, you just press your ability key and it heals you up and gets your survivability way higher than it is without fire suppression. Defense slot, for anti-vehicle harassers, I would always use vehicle stealth. Upgrading that to max is reasonably important. It is way stronger than the third upgrade. Why? Because you cannot be seen on the minimap anymore. That's vehicle stealth 4. Now, it is very freaking expensive, but it is also very freaking useful.
Yeah. Also, just imagine the situation where you're passing by a Sunderer and you're trying to destroy the Sunderer, and then you see all the heavies pointing rocket launchers at you. The ones that are the homing rocket launchers.
Like, yes.
This one breaks it off, kind of.
Well, it adds, lock-on time, but the minimap prevention is more for enemy vehicles. Because proper, if you have a halfway good opponent, he will hear your harasser coming, but he won't, he'll look at the minimap and try to find you, but he won't find you because you have vehicle stealth 4, and you don't show up on the minimap. A really good driver will just know where you're coming from based on sound alone. But, that's not the level that every enemy vehicle driver is at. So, vehicle stealth 4 is the must bring. As for performance slot, that is a preference for the driver. I use Racer High Speed.
Same.
It is difficult to drive with Racer High Speed because it increases slip potential very, very much.
Nah, you just use the spacebar and start drifting.
You can't really drift in a harasser. You just.
I've done it.
With Scrapper Combat, it is way easier to, drive.
Yeah.
But it also makes you slower and thus easier to hit. Surge your power, improved handling and hill climbing, wouldn't use that because we usually won't be fighting on hills. And if we go over hills, then it's just, to go over them and then go back to flight.
Just turbo.
Which is personally handy with Racer High Speed and Scrapper Combat. You just turbo over them. Talking about turbo, the harasser has a passive system called the turbo. You can actually upgrade that, which can be very handy. Just
but you need to
put a few levels in it.
You can't really access it in the you have to access it in the search screen, not on the I can't find it in the loadouts.
Passive systems.
You press your harassers on the vehicle, harasser certs, and then it shows up all the way on the top. And then for anti-vehicle, let's talk about the guns next then. There are 3 guns that come, into view when you go for anti-vehicle. And those are the Mjolnir, the Halberd, and the Enforcer. The Halberd and the Enforcer are longer range, and they really synchronize with the harasser's speed. So if you're at long range, enemy vehicles will have extra trouble hitting you because you're a small, fast target. And you can do considerable, consistent damage with Halberd and Enforcer from that range. Now, for the uses we were going to, implement harassers, the Mjolnir is fine too. It does need to be quite a bit closer, but it has a higher damage model than the Halberd or the Enforcer, but it makes you way more vulnerable to enemy vehicles because you're because you're way closer. That basically sums up the anti-vehicle harasser. I suppose that if I would have to, my English is breaking right now. Recommend a certain gun, it would be the Halberd or the Enforcer, but the Mjolnir will do just fine. It does require a bit more driving skill. So in the end, if you don't have a lot of certs, go with the Mjolnir.
The Mjolnir has a really nice arc as well.
Yeah, I suppose, but just being able to attack from range makes you so much more survivable.
Yeah, but Mjolnir is
if you have a proper driver.
But the Mjolnir is more for like one clipping tanks from behind, you know.
I suppose, but then
Yeah,
again, if you're
it's
a
his-
proper
it's a
harasser
sneak-up
driver, you'll
gun.
be in the behind pretty much all the time. Long range or short range. Anything else? So well, then I suppose I can move on to the anti-infantry harasser. Utility stays the same, fire suppression. Defense slot, I would go with composite armor,
Yay!
because in this case you're not really trying to be sneaky, because you're probably going to be in the middle of a base with your harasser,
And a fuckfest.
and usually a fuckfest. As for performance, I would go with Scrapper, because you will be needing to turn tight corners with your harasser,
God damn it. Okay, I don't have that.
and it also does require some driving skill and knowledge of the base to know where you can go and where you can't go. And for gun, there are also 3 that come into view. Those are the Cobalt, the Bulldog, and the Canister. I suppose that's gunner's preference to which one to use, but in the end, if you just have a harasser with an anti-infantry gun driving around in a base, its use will usually be fulfilled.
Question: hasn't the harasser bulldog been like severely not nerfed but lobbed? You know, like if you shoot, you have to arc really high to be able to shoot something in front of you.
Can be, not that I would know because I don't use the Bulldog harasser that often. I have a Canister unlocked. But in the end, that's just the gunner that needs to learn how to use the gun.
Yeah.
Then for how to use your harassers, now that we've talked about loadouts, one golden rule that you must always pay attention to when driving a harasser, and that's the driving part. If you stand still in an harasser, you're a dead harasser. Nice and simple. The only reasons you should ever be standing still is when you're miles away from a fight and you're repairing shit, or when you're looking at your map to see where you're going, also miles away from the fight. A harasser is not made for its tankiness, it's made for being fast and agile, and not being hit. As for the gunner,
Thanks.
you don't know what that thanks was about, but okay.
No, because he was flipped over.
Oh, GG. As for the gunner, you need to pay attention to the harasser's health and the manner of your driver, the way he's driving, because depending on what you're doing, you will want to hop into the back seat and repair the harasser.
That's another question I was going to pose. Are we going to run 3-man or 2-man harassers?
2-man harassers always.
The
So-
third man on the rest is kind of useless, to be honest.
Just to
I mean,
repair.
if you have an engineer in the back constantly repairing, it's better than
Yeah,
switching.
but it
guns.
repairs so slowly that it's annoying for the
Yeah.
engineer.
Can
it's a waste of
we
manpower,
remember
in
to
my
put
opinion.
zoom on their harasser turrets because it's one cert.
Well, for one cert, like, just get it. Can be bad if if your gunner doesn't want to use it, he just won't use it. But for the gunners, you need to make a decision on whether it's time to bail and to survive, or when it's time to kill.
Or
That's
you just
something
go
you need to
full
agree on.
kamikaze. You put some C4 on that motherfucker.
Right.
I've done it before.
Would use a flash for that.
Flash.
Yeah, a flash is much more you know,
Cheap.
nanite friendly.
But that's something you have to agree on with your driver. If your driver says, okay, I'm going out, then just hop in the back seat and repair. Or if you see that your target is burning, finish it, hop in the back seat and repair. Alrighty, I think that's about it for theory. How about we do a rundown of who has which